Dean, obviously not great news injury-wise with Tommy Papley going down on the weekend. Can you give us a bit of an update about how he's tracking at the moment?
Yeah, unfortunately on the weekend that he cracked his heel. So yeah, we're sort of gathering all the information now, but he won't play this week. Look to maybe miss 6 to 8. We'll get a bit more verification on that as in the following days. But yeah, not great news. When we've already got some key personnel out that you get another one, but unfortunately this game moves forward and you create an opportunity for another player.
What is, I guess, your sense around the injuries that are happening at the moment? I know a couple of weeks ago we talked about it's kind of a risk of some of maybe the heavier training loads and things that happen, but can you put it down to anything? Is it just a bit of bad luck as well?
Yeah, I think the thing when you look at it with injuries is, are they common? Are they reoccurring? Are they avoidable? And some of these ones, you talk about Errol tackled in a thing, Callum with plantar fascia, and obviously Tom now with a heel. So they're all different. We've just got to make sure that we try and prepare our players the best way they can. We understand it is a contact game, and to push players to a limit, knowing that they've got to withstand that game day. So a lot of our players were slow to start through the off season, so some of them are finding it a little bit tough through this period. So yeah, we've just got to get through it and give opportunities to some other players which they've taken.
How do you feel, mate, just like your first year and you get confronted with an injury this side? You must feel like you're just not getting the rub of the green as you'd probably like at the moment?
You certainly rather have your best players out there. But also the other side of it, I love playing kids or playing players that probably thought they weren't a chance 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. That's where the real excitement comes from. The job is the ability to see their excitement. They've played some really consistent VFL football or practice games leading into it. So, they've shown with the like of obviously Bison, Hanley and Corey Warner and, Angus Sheldrick and Caden Cleary will come in at some stage that they can withstand the AFL demands and play the footy we need them to.
You said Pappy did it over the weekend. Could you shed some light on what was it during training?
So he finished training on the Saturday. We had a good hit out Saturday through the bye period and then come in early in the week a little bit sore. So then precaution-wise, you look after that, you get it scanned and assessed and then you get the result you don't want to get. So we're sort of gathering all that now and we'll work the full extent of it and what his full program looks like.
Well, on the flip side, you get Logan McDonald back at least. How tough for you to finally get him back?
Yeah, it's great. And that's the part. Logan's had a really tough off-season. So the good part is his ability to be able to play this week. He'll be on restricted minutes, but the part we want from Logan is, he's in our best team. He'll get a chance now to build through some match play over the coming weeks in the VFL program. He's really excited, and so are we.
Where is his spot in the team? Dean, if I'm not mistaken, did he spend some time down back in pre-season? Like, are you looking to swing him around a bit like you have with Tom?
Yeah, the hard part is probably planned to and he hasn't trained. A lot through the whole pre-season program. So, for Logan it'll be the first couple of weeks will just be about playing. Whether that be forward, back, on a wing, I'm not really concerned with that. It's just actually great to have him out playing. So, he'll be used. He's on restricted minutes or distance, and that'll build over the period. But it's just great to see him. He's got through the full training load now, and now he's ready to play.
So he'll come through the VFL?
Yeah, he will. Yeah. I think he hasn't played for 5 months. So the hard part as well is when you come back through this period where players are playing, the training loads we've got to really try and manufacture when they can actually get to game load intensity through training, which they can't do. So he's been doing some 18v18 match play work, but hasn't been exposed for long enough now. So it'll be through the VFL.
So Millsy's progression's a little bit slower than expected. Just given that this is his second very hampered season, is he getting a bit frustrated?
Yeah, like any player that's injured, Callum's one of those. The thing with Callum, he's turned the corner dramatically the last 4 or 5 days. So, he had a really good session on Tuesday on the training deck, pulled up really well. So, hopefully that does change because he has had a tough 2 years. So, for him, it's about he understands what he's got to do. Now it's just about hopefully his body allows him to do that.
obviously from a leadership perspective, without Cal there, we've seen Isaac step up in recent weeks as kind of the game day captain. Isaac's been someone who hasn't always been in the publicised leadership groups over the past few years for the Swans, but what have you seen from him in like the last couple of years to really step up and be willing to take on that kind of responsibility?
Yeah, I think since Callum hasn't been there, we've rotated it was Paps last week. So I think that's the luxury of having a lot of people in a leadership position or people that are capable of doing it. I think the thing we want from Isaac is, to perform the way he does. He leads by example on and off the training field. So, that's what he has to do. That's when he's at his best. And then also to be authentic to who he is. We don't want him to try and be a Callum Mills and lead the way Callum does. So, and that's the diversity and of the nature you need in the leadership group is to have people with different thoughts, different strengths, and they've got to make sure that they bring them, and Isaac's one of those.
You mentioned Caden Cleary before as well. He was pretty good in the VFL a couple of weeks ago with, I think, 37 touches or so. Is he someone who could really come into consideration for this week as well?
Yeah, I think he will. You've talked about obviously Angus was a sub last week. He will. Caden, we've got Aaron Francis has been in really good form. Caleb Mitchell. So we've got some players that we'll look at through this main session, and then from there make a decision this afternoon who gets on the plane tomorrow.
How have you seen kind of Caden kind of bounce back? Obviously the 2-week suspension to start the season, in terms of really trying to build on that and show that, I guess, get a bit of trust back from you guys and that sort of thing. What have you seen from him this year?
Yeah, I think that was the first thing he had to do, is, as you mentioned, to get the trust back of us and the playing group. And he worked extremely hard since he came back after Christmas to do everything he possibly could to understand the suspension was coming, and but then from there to make sure that he can actually play the footy he wants to do. And as you mentioned, last week he was really good. He's built over that form, and if it is this week, great. If it's not, well, he'll continue to do so at VFL level.
There'll be a familiar face against you guys this week in Luke Parker in the blue and white.
Yeah.
Will that be a bit strange, seeing someone who's, I guess, been so integral to the club over the years on the opposition side?
Yeah, it will. And Luke's been an amazing servant of this football club. So the ability to be able to spend some time with Luke through that period and what he contributed was really integral to the success of the footy club, and also the way the footy club's been built. So it'll be different. He's playing some really good footy, as North are as well. So he's just one of a piece that we've got to look out for.
Any extra focus on him?
No, not really. He'll just be another North player that the boys will. No doubt he'll be trying to prove his best, like our players will as well. So they're pretty mature now. They'll go about their business the way they need to.
Jai, over at North, has been having a really good start to the season. Have you kind of been able to speak to some of the guys just about the threat of him just moving forward?
Yeah, I think, and that's the part with North as well, is that they have a lot of high-end talent. They've spent a lot of time with the draft. They've added some experience around it, but their young core group is as talented as anyone. When you talk about obviously LDU, Jai, McKercher, you can go through the list. Powell, Phillips, like they are top-end talent. And one thing they're starting to see is that they've had a coach there for a couple of years that's obviously built a system, but also enhanced their talent. So that's one thing why you've seen them do what they have in games, be in games for long times, or perform really well in those games. So we've got to be aware of there's a number of them. So we'll have a discussion about is it specifically one, or is it we bat against our own, and what we do with that process.
We've seen a little bit more talk this week about opening round again, and teams like Collingwood maybe not wanting to come up here for it. I mean, we know from like Sydney's perspective, all the New South Wales and Queensland markets, it's so important. What would you say to kind of some of the clubs who are maybe umming and ahhing about why it's so important up here?
It's a national game, last time I checked. I think one thing that we always try and do is promote the game. And, that's one thing that here has done for the past. But it's a little bit different with a couple of games getting called off, which probably put the microscope on a little bit more. But, for Sydney and for our footy club, we're really proud to open the season. And it's really good for this market. We've seen the growth, as you've seen, the growth in kids and game development has been profound, and it comes from having standalone games.
Just on that, was there an incident at training you remember where it cracked, or just put up?
Just put up sore. So, and that's just one of those things that we just got to, you get assessed when they come back in and say, oh yeah, I'm a little bit sorer than what I previously would have been. So from there, what do? You get a scan and then the results come, whether it's scan or symptom based. You get a bit of both.
Just with the opening round stuff, I mean, as someone who grew up in WA, do you find it a bit precious that some clubs complain about a 1 hour flight?
I think that's part of the nature of where you sit geographically. And we realised when I was playing that, and certainly when I was coaching, it's a national game. So you've got to accommodate that as well as you possibly can.
You've also just got a couple of defenders coming back in the next couple of weeks, Cunningham, to name a few.
Yep.
Just speaking of your young side and like the newly rotated side as well, how much are you going to kind of be looking at the defenders this weekend against North to see how they fit into the squad setup?
Yeah, I think like one thing we moved Tommy back. Sam Wicks he's been a permanent at the start of the year, so we haven't had Harry. Unfortunately, he's been a really strong focal point of our backline for a number of years, and the roles that he does do. So yeah, we understand he'll be back within a week or two. But from here, it's about trying to make sure that we focus on what we do have. And you've seen Joel Hamley come in and perform very well. So Riley Bice has been doing his role. So although the name tag probably might look a little bit different, their performance I've been really pleased with.
Any updates for us on Chad and his future? Anything in the last week that was able to get sorted over the bye?
No updates. We'll just continually have conversations with Chad about his future and our future, and they're ongoing. So no update.
Going back to the win against Rio, Grundy was subbed off late in the piece. Was that kind of a game situation move, and Peter Ladham's given the task to finish the job, or do you see Ladham's having a bit more of a role to play this season?
I think a bit of both. I think Pete, the way he's sort of had a pre-season and handled himself over the start of the pre-season program has been really, really good. And with Brody, we took a lot of tall players in. Brody'd done a lot of the ruck work previous to that subbing decision, and we just thought what was best for the team is to get Pete fresher as long as he possibly could against the one man in Jackson who'd played a really good game. So that was the way we went. He performed really well in that last quarter. And they'll both be available again this week.
You still get time to do one-on-one ruck coaching, or you're too busy doing other stuff?
Yeah, a little bit busier. But yeah, you're still trying, and that's part of what you have to do. Is you've got to make sure that you're always across, every player on the list, whether you're trying to help them in any positional stuff or any technique stuff. So I still speak to them frequently. Mike Pike comes down a little bit, which we're very grateful for, to be able to pass on his expertise as well.
Could that two-pronged approach be really key for someone like Tristan Cherry, who's probably all-Australian ruck form at the moment?
He's in unbelievable form. And I think that's for a couple of years he's been in this form. To be able to soldier predominantly most of the ruck load, to win his share of hit-outs, but his follow-up is something that sets him apart. He competes really hard. He adds another real dynamic to that midfield group, and he's a really important player, not only for their team but in the competition. So, yeah, both guys are aware of his strengths. We've got to try and combat that as much as we possibly can, and allow our boys to do what they do as well.